Brian, looking rather mohawkish.
Yeah, whatever. It's the
Not
product.
you.
It's the product or the
Not
other.
you. Yours are looking pretty high and tight too, by
Well,
the way.
again, not as good as Mr. Tanis's though.
No way. I am jealous.
My wife got a little aggressive on the sides, but
Nothing wrong with that.
we're still on quarantine haircuts. I haven't let my wife give that duty up yet. So
I got my daughter's been cutting mine. I got my first haircut last week in about a year, whatever, a year and a quarter.
yeah, I don't know. I just haven't gone back to the barber. My wife's taken over that duty, much to her dismay, I might add.
Same at my house. I'm the new barber.
My boys won't let me touch their hair, so they got very long.
So they're not letting anybody touch their hair. Okay.
So I think we're all here. The gang's all here. Anybody who we're expecting from the board seems to be here.
All right, we'll get started. The work session opening statement. The May 20th, 2021 work session of the Wyckoff Board of Adjustment is now in session. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting appears on our annual schedule of meetings. A copy of said annual schedule has been posted on the bulletin board in Memorial Town Hall. A copy has been filed with the Township Clerk, the Record, the Ridgewood News, and the North Jersey Herald and News, all newspapers with general circulation throughout the Township of Wyckoff. At least 48 hours prior to this meeting, the agenda thereof was similarly posted, filed, and mailed to said newspapers. Members of the public are welcome to be present at this meeting. However, in accordance with Section 7A of the Open Public Meetings Act, participation on the part of the public at this meeting will not be entertained. Open Public Meetings Act. Please take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, and in consideration of Executive Order Number 103 issued by Governor Murphy on March 9th, 2020, declaring a state of emergency in the state of New Jersey, the Zoning Board of the Township of Wyckoff does hereby notify the public that to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens, the meeting of the Zoning Board of the Township of Wyckoff scheduled for Thursday, May 20th, 2021 will be conducted virtually through Zoom through Zoom technology and will be live streamed on the Township of Wyckoff's YouTube channel. The work session is scheduled for 7:30 and the public business meeting will begin at 8 p.m. These measures are implemented to allow members of the public to observe the meeting via live streaming and to provide the ability to comment during the periods for public comment during the meeting through Zoom telephone call-in technology. Joining the meeting by telephone will be utilized as security against the sharing of inappropriate video content. General instructions regarding access to the meeting is posted on the Wyckoff website's homepage at www.wyckoff-nj.com as a news item. All applicants are hereby reminded that your application, if approved, may be subject to the terms, conditions, and payment of the affordable housing development fee requirements of the township. Information can be obtained from the code of the Township of Wyckoff, Chapter 113-8 on the township's website, www.wyckoff-nj.com. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Ms. Mitchell, roll call, please. Maureen, you're muted.
So sorry. Ms. Rizvani,
Here.
Mr. Christ, Mr. Tanis,
Here.
Mr. Kalpagian, Mr. Hubert,
Present.
Ms. Riato,
Here.
Mr. Rubenacker, Mr. Borst,
Here.
Chairman Fry.
Here. All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, we'll start with the old business. Approval of the April 15th, 2021 work session and public meeting minutes. I did go through the both the work session and the public session. I didn't notice anything glaringly obvious that was incorrect, needs to be corrected. One point I do want to make, it's always nice just for the board members. It's good to review this and then compare it to the resolutions, because then you can see what we had in the minutes, any notes that we have, and just make sure everything ties between all three documents to the resolutions. Because sometimes we pick up, there are stipulations when we do go to approve an application, and we just want to make sure that that is picked up in the resolutions. And David does a real nice job of putting those together. But just a way to kind of double check everything. So I try to compare the documents to make sure that we don't miss anything. And maybe sometimes, like we did have one this last period where somebody had to submit a landscape plan. So that's documented. We did get it. We can have that discussion, and then we can kind of memorialize things appropriately. So that being said, I don't have any comments, errors, or omissions, but by all means, if any of the board members have noticed anything, please bring it to the table now.
I saw nothing.
Okay. All right, then I will accept a motion to approve the minutes for the April 15th work and public meetings.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hubert. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Tanis.
Thank you. Ms. Rizvani,
Yes.
Mr. Tanis,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Mr.
Yeah.
Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Resolutions for payment, number 21-05. So we did get an updated one throughout the week. Hopefully everyone picked up on that email and was able to print that out. There were a couple of things that were added to it. So I will just read them off. Item number one, again, this is resolution number 21-05. Item number one, Township Engineer Review, the Montes application, 122 Edison Street, $239.75. The Payerly application, 360 Pathway Manor, $274. The Cushard application, 324 Wyckoff Ave, $274. Item number two, Professional Services / Resolutions, the Montes application, 122 Edison Street, $400. The Payerly application, 360 Pathway Manor, $400. And the Cushard application, 324 Wyckoff Ave, $400. Item number three, return of escrow. The Bone application, 74 Yale Ave, $417.32. The Castro application, 43 Park Ave, $243.35. Scalise application, 541 Helena Ave, $466.32. Andrukowitz application, 383 Lehigh Street, $329.32. Urban application, 239 Cottage Road, $157.36. And the Quiroga application, 469 Cedar Hill Ave, $158.30. Board, any questions or comments on resolution 21-05?
No.
Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve resolution 21-05?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Borst, second.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, second by Mr. Hubert.
Ms. Rizvani,
Yes.
Mr. Tanis,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Ms. Riato,
Yes.
Mr. Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry.
Yes. Okay. Resolutions to be memorialized. So we have three: the Cushard application, the Payerly application, and the Montes application. Ms. Mitchell, are we able to do all three at the same time?
Yes, everyone who voted on those three applications are present. I will not be calling on Ms. Riato because she was not present and did not vote on those applications.
Okay. All right, so I went through all three. I just had a couple of notes on the Montes application. On page 2, the bottom of page 2, this is just basic housekeeping, little items. Number 6, we then have 1, 2, 3. There is no 4. Just get rid of the 4. The top of page 3, item number 7. Board member Boris and Rubenacker raised landscaping questions and concerns with recommendations made to add toe. Just change that to 2, just so it's clear. We do have the number 2 there, but spell out 2. The only other notes I have is that this is one that there was a condition that the applicant had to provide a revised landscape plan. And that did get submitted, and it was reviewed by Mr. Boris, just for the record, who responded back that he was in agreement that it was a decent plan and it was approvable. So that did get reviewed. It was furnished, so they did supply the board with the revised landscape plan. Let's see. Outside of that, the only other note I had was the Payerly application. Again, in just reading the minutes, we had, and I believe they had testified on it, I believe it was maybe Mr. Whitaker, they had agreed to a deed restriction. So the porch that they were proposing, the deed restriction would make that remain always an open porch. And that is noted in the resolution. So we picked up the one stipulation that we had for that one. So that one looks good. So the only one I had a couple of things just to clean up would be the Montez application. Board,
Mr. Chairman, just so you know, it's not something that has to get approved here, but Mr. Wicker already prepared a deed, which I have reviewed, which he'll attach this resolution to, but the language fits what our stipulation is. I kind of told him in advance what that language would look like. So just so the board knows, he's already prepared that deed, and it will be ready after tonight to attach this resolution and file that deed. So just so you know that.
perfect. Thank you, Mr. Becker. Okay, board, any other questions, comments, or errors or omissions for the 3 resolutions? Okay, that being said, I will entertain a motion to approve to memorialize the 3 resolutions: Cushard, 324 Wyckoff Ave, Montez application, just with a couple of corrections, 122 Edison Street, and then the Payerly application, 360 Pathway Manor. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tanis. Second?
I'll second it.
Chairman.
Second, Mr. Borst. Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. Tanis,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Mr. Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry.
Yes. Okay. And Ms. Mitchell, I do have those resolutions signed along with some of the other ones in the folder. So
Yeah.
here's the proof. They are there. I'll get them back to you. Thank you.
Pass them through. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so just a couple of other notes. There were some documents also included in the packets this month, just so we can go on record with it. The Electrify America LLC, 525 Cedar Hill Ave. That was the electric vehicle charging stations that were being proposed in that back corner of the parking lot. Electrify America has withdrawn their application. So they did memorialize that. We did get a certified document stating that that was their intent to withdraw the above referenced application, block 391, lot 42.01. So that has been withdrawn. The other note that was in the packet was last month we heard an application, 101 Kelowna Street. The attorney had submitted something to Ms. Mitchell stating that the applicant is requesting to carry the application to the June 17th, 2021 meeting without further notice, which wouldn't be an issue. So that application will not be heard tonight either. That is the first one that says application carried, the Walsh application, 101 Kelowna. So for anyone that is perhaps listening right now or watching, we will not be hearing that application tonight. So the Electrify America, we will not be hearing. That one's withdrawn completely, and 101 Kelowna is carried to the next month. Okay. We do, however, have 3 new applications. The Barry application, 191 Van Houten, block 292, lot 10. Corolla application, 425 Redrock, and then 11 application, 321 Markham Road. One quick note, and Ms. Mitchell sent it out in the email. There are several now stacking up in queue. Whether they will be complete for the next meeting, we don't quite know, but the number is up to about 8. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
About 8. So this agenda is rather light, but the upcoming meetings, we may have some issues if they all get through the completeness review. So just to kind of be prepared for that. Okay, why don't we go through the 3 applications? We do have Mr. DeGennaro, who's fishing over on the pond. Mr. DeGennaro, the first one we'll do is the Barry application, 191 Van Houten Ave. Can you give us an overview with your report, please?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, thank you. It's 191 Van Houten Avenue, block 292, lot 10, located in the RA 25 zone. Existing single family is on a corner lot and is currently non-conforming due to lot area, front yard and side yard setback deficiencies, as well as accessory structure setback deficiencies. The applicant proposes to expand the dwelling, triggering the enhanced side yard setback, giving rise for variance relief. The existing lot size is 17,356 square feet in a zone that requires 25,000 square foot. The frontage existing is 259 in the zone that requires 125. Again, that's because it's a corner lot. You have double frontage. The depth of the lot existing is 150 and conforms with the zone. Principal front yard setback existing number 1 along Van Houten is 35.2 feet, proposed to remain unchanged at 35.2 feet. Existing front yard number 2 along Demoris, 26.6 feet, proposed to remain unchanged at 26.6 feet. Required in the zone is 40 feet. The principal building side yard setback, there's only 1 side yard on this property as it's a corner lot. The existing is at 19.8 feet and proposed remains at 19.8 feet. However, due to the size of the structure, the enhanced side yard setback is triggered, requiring a minimum of 25 feet. Principal building rear yard setback required is 40 feet. Proposed is at 58.5 feet. The accessory structure setback, proposed deck rear yard is 58.5. Proposed deck side yard is 65, where a minimum of 15-foot side and 20-foot rear is required. The existing shed, a rear yard setback of 15.8 feet exists, and for the rear where 20 foot is required, and the existing side yard of 9.7 feet exists where 15 feet is required. The existing principal building lot coverage is at 12.4%, proposed to go to 16.2%, where the max permitted is 15%. Variance is required. Accessory lot coverage remains the same at 2.6%, where max permitted is 5%. The height of the structure is proposed at 31.8 feet or 2.5 stories, which is less than the maximum permitted of 35 feet. The combined lot coverage max permitted is 20%, proposed is at 18.8%, and the proposed impervious coverage is below the max permitted of 34% at 25.4%. The township stormwater management requirements have been satisfied, and the property is served by sanitary sewer.
Okay, thank you. So one quick note on the Schedule J. It looks like the numbers do tie, but on the applicant's version, just one under lot coverage, item number 5. For the principal building, 15% max, they're at 16.2, so that should just be checked off as requiring a variance. A couple high-level comments on this. I like the fact that they're going over the existing footprint. They're filling in a little bit of a void in the front, and then they're building a little bit off the back and then going up. But all of these side yard, front yard, all the setbacks are remaining the same, which is nice. There is a pole. I think we should just have some discussion as where the property line was. And I know the neighbor was before us not too long ago, but my memory is terrible. I don't remember exactly where the property line was. I thought it was that chain link fence, but I could be wrong, where the retaining wall goes a little bit further. It could be the edge of the retaining wall. Either way, there's a utility pole on that side. So we should have some discussion about putting the utilities underground just to kind of clean that up. Plus it's going across the driveway, would really clean that up nice. The only other thing I noted is it's really private in the back, really some tall evergreens line the property, and it's rather steep, stepped as you go down the back. The shed, I don't know that the numbers are correct, and I think that's where I just want to get some clarification on where the property line is. I don't know if that's what was there before. There's a slab. It looks like that might have been changed at some point. So I just want to get some testimony to see if the shed that is there reflects what is on the drawings and the setbacks are correct. Because it's only, I'm going to say maybe 3 to 4 feet off of that fence. So if that's the property line, then I don't know where the 9.7 is coming from. It's certainly not the 15.8 dimension. So I just want to get some testimony on that. But other than that, we're familiar with the team. I guess that team knows people in that area. I believe the same team did the application to the right as well. But this is a nice application, and it's nice to see that they're going right up over the existing structure. So those are my comments. Board, any other anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think the whole application looks good. I think if you look at the site plan, Mr. Chair, you'll see the electric is underground already proposed, and you'll see the dimensions on the effect on the print.
Oh, Mr. Boris, we're losing you. You're kind of you're fading in and out.
You're breaking up.
Sorry about that.
Yep, no problem. Okay. All right, perfect. Any other comments, board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just point out that the plan contemplates putting a new underground electric service.
I think that's what Mr. Boris was saying.
Yep.
Anybody else want to comment on the underground service? I will. I think it'd be a great idea if they put the utilities underground.
Carl always comes up with the best ideas.
Even if they're already on paper. Okay. All right, great. Let's move on to the next application. Next application is the Corolla application, 425 Redrock. Mr. DeGennaro, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to abstain from that application.
Please note for the record, Mr. Borst will be recusing himself from the Corolla application.
So 425 Red Rock Road, it's block 497, lot 85. It is a single-family home located in the MFAH5 zone, which is the multifamily affordable housing zone, and is currently conforming. The applicant's proposing to construct an in-ground swimming pool requiring variance relief to the rear yard and side yard setbacks. The existing lot size is 8,865 square feet, where a minimum required in the zone is 7,500 square feet. The frontage required is 75 feet. Existing is at 81.18 feet. The depth required, actually, there's no depth required on these lots. The existing depth is 101 feet. Front yard setback, existing is 25.8 feet, required is 25 feet, proposed remains unchanged. Principal building side yard setback, existing number 1 is at 8.8 feet, existing number 2 is at 14.6 feet. Both remain unchanged, and required per the zoning is 5 foot one side and 15 foot combined. Principal building rear yard setback is at 29.8 feet, where a minimum required is 25 feet. Proposed remains unchanged. The accessory structure setback is the proposed swimming pool is 3.6 feet rear yard to the pool patio and 6.3 feet side yard to the pool patio, where a minimum of 10-foot rear and 10-foot side is required. Lot coverages, existing in principal buildings at 26.3% remains unchanged. The proposed accessory structure is 5.6%. Max permitted combined is at 35%, and the proposed combined is at 31.9%. I'll just point out for the board so there's no confusion. This is a different residential zone than the typical R15 or RA25. It is, it does not have a maximum accessory structure lot coverage of 5% as typically in the R15 and R25 that you're accustomed to seeing. So I just identified that number, but the critical number to pay attention to is what the maximum permitted combined is 35% and is principal with accessory. And this is coming in at 31.9%. So don't be confused with the 5.6. Impervious coverage max permitted is 60%, and the proposed impervious coverage is at 55%. The height of the structure, principal buildings at less than 35 feet. The project entails an accessory swimming pool, so the structure is not changing. And the proposal satisfies the township's requirement for stormwater management, and the property is served by sanitary sewer.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so this one is unique due to the zone that it is in, the multifamily affordable housing. So as Mr. DeGennaro mentioned, the numbers are completely different. What we know is the typical setbacks for an RA 15 or 25 are completely different in comparison to this. So this applicant is not doing anything on the home. They are looking to install a pool in the backyard, which I did get a chance to walk the property. They have a large retaining wall right across the whole back of the property. And then there are at least 20-foot tall plus evergreens that line the top of that wall, which I would imagine are the neighbors. And then also the neighbors to the left and the neighbors to the right, just on the other side of the fence, if anybody walked the property, which I don't know whose those belong to, but there are also tall evergreens. So there's a lot of shading and screening in this backyard. So they're looking to install an in-ground pool and then pavers around it, pavers across the back. And the dimensions now that they're looking to go to, since the pavers are right up against the pool itself, that also is included in the accessory structure. And the closest point is 3.6 feet. So it looks like it's 6 feet to the pool itself from the rear property line. Again, there's a retaining wall. This is kind of a unique circumstance. So it should be viewed maybe a little differently rather than open land with a house right behind. There's a wall right behind it. So for me, that kind of weighs into it a little bit. Certainly a hardship, the lot size and the depth that they have in the back. So really, to me, the only thing we can really look at is the size of the pool. Is it something that's large with respect to with the property that they have? Is it could it be moved in another location that might be better? They're already close to the house itself at 10 feet. So really to pull it back off that wall could present another challenge because it's really not a wide pool where you step out of the back of the house or you walk around. Now you have a narrow sliver, which isn't necessarily the greatest idea either. So it's an interesting application. I spent some time looking at all the numbers only because it is unique. I think it's the first time maybe we've had the multifamily affordable housing come before us. But certainly if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to bring them up either in the work session or as we get into the testimony with the applicant. Then also during the week, we received a landscape plan from Force Landscaping. And it looks like what they're proposing is more plantings across that sliver that'll be across the back wall up against that retaining wall. And then also some material along the left-hand side to the neighbor to the left. And then they have I believe the pool filter and pool equipment proposed on that left-hand side at 10 feet off the property line, 10.3. So I don't see that there's really an issue with that. So that's what's going on with this application. Board, do you have any questions or comments?
The only comment I have, Mr. Chairman, is reference to the 3.6, from the rear yard. I think you have a unique situation here with where else could you put the pool because of, I guess it looks like they have a fire pit on one side and some existing pavers there. The retaining wall is helpful and the screening that's there. So there's a significant, even with the additional landscape plan provided by the applicant. Normally it poses a challenge when you're that close to the property line, especially with a pool. But I think I can see the reason why this is a hardship. I can understand the challenge. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Board, any other comments?
I thought it was very interesting too, the whole setup here. I know a couple doors down, they have a pool in this same type of property. So I've seen that before. The one thing I'm not understanding, and maybe Mark will clarify, is the fencing with the retaining wall. I'm not quite sure how that works because, the top of the retaining wall, you have the evergreens, but that's the rear of the property. So I'm not sure, like the fence could go as high as the retaining wall, but the top of the fence is the bottom of the property behind them. So I'm not really understanding that. So
I think what would probably happen, and I'm just looking at the fence here. The fence would probably be, I'm thinking it would be placed on top of the retaining wall.
okay.
It looks like the retaining wall is theirs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I
So,
think it is. It's
I would
really
think that
tight area.
the fence is going to be placed on top of the retaining wall. Otherwise, if it was down below the retaining wall, it wouldn't comply with the building code for pool code fence. If someone could scale the wall and just hop over the fence.
Right. That's what I was wondering. Okay.
That's a very good point. So we'll get some testimony. I will ask the applicant what exactly they're proposing to do. Yeah, I just had some questions. The fence that's there, do they own the fence? You see the fence kind of tapers in on the lot. So then the plantings theirs, and then what's going on top of that wall to see how the pool fence is going to go. We'll definitely get some testimony on that. Board, any other questions?
I'd like to get some testimony on the overall size of the pool and why the applicant decided that size pool in such an undersized backyard area. So just go over that and see what their thoughts are on that.
Sure. Anything else?
I think the electric is underground too, Mr. Chairman.
I'll take a look at the drawings and see. Okay. All right, let's move on to the last application. Okay, the third application we have is the 11 application 321 Markham Road.
So 321 Markham Road is block 289, lot 8. Existing single family in the RA 25 zone, currently non-conforming due to lot area deficiency, frontage, front yard and side yard setbacks, principal building lot coverage. The applicant's proposing to construct a covered front porch requiring variances. The lot size is 15,075 square feet, where a minimum required in the zone is 25,000 square feet. The frontage is 100 feet, where a minimum of 125 is required. Depth is compliant at 150.36. Front yard setback existing is at 36.73 feet. Proposed is at 37.38 feet. Minimum required is 40 feet. Principal building side yard setback existing is 9.4 feet. Proposed is unchanged. Existing side yard setback number 2 is at 26.1 feet. Proposed is unchanged. Required 20 foot each side. Principal building rear yard setback remains unchanged at 59.1, where a minimum of 40 feet is required. The lot coverage, existing principal building lot coverage is at 16.4%. Proposed remains at 16.4%, and the max permitted is 15%. I'm told that the porch is not going to increase the footprint, which is why the principal building lot coverage remains unchanged. The combined lot coverage is 16.9% with 0.5% for a shed, but I believe the shed is going to be removed as of the last communication I had. Existing height, 24.7 feet, max permitted is 35, proposed is unchanged, as the front porch is only going to be probably around 12, 15 feet, but we should get some testimony because it's not clear on the drawing. The application does not qualify for a stormwater management plan. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, so this one's pretty simple. If anybody went by the house, you see they're doing some work on the exterior. And they're looking to just take a little return right in the center of the house and just make it a covered porch. Very simple. If you walk to the front line of the house, it's not going to encroach any further. So dimensionally, things aren't really changing, and they are removing, based on the Schedule J, and I'll just go through a couple of things that should be checked on it. On the Schedule J, they are showing for the accessory structure, it was 80 square feet. The proposed is 0, so that, I guess, frame shed in the back is coming out. So the combined would be 16.4 is what they're showing. It'd be 16.4 for the principal, 0 for the accessory, so total combined 16.4, which is less than the 20. So lot size, I had the first line, they're less than 25,000 feet, so that was checked. Frontage was checked. And then they had identified the front yard setback at 37.38. That's also checked. And then the item number 5, principal building, 15 max, they're at 16.4. So I had that one also checked off. The others, there were no changes to. So again, this one's rather simple. I had just similar questions. It's tough to gauge the depth, the height, what's really going on. It's very simple. We probably don't have to spend too much time on it, I wouldn't think. But just to go over some dimensions, I think we should just get that memorialized when we get into the public meeting. So those are my only comments. This one's pretty simple, I thought. Board, anything to add? Any questions or comments? No. Okay. All right. Very good. So those are the 3. Why don't we? I'll entertain a motion to close the work session. Why don't I do that first? Can I get a motion to entertain the work session?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Why don't we take 5 minutes? It's 8:10. We'll start back at 8:15. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Mitchell, you all set?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The May 20th, 2021 public meeting of the Whitehall Board of Adjustment is now in session. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting appears on our annual schedule of meetings. A copy of said annual schedule has been posted on the bulletin board in Memorial Town Hall. A copy has been filed with the Township Clerk, the Record, the Ridgewood News, and the North Jersey Herald and News, all newspapers with general circulation throughout the Township of Wyckoff. At least 48 hours prior to this meeting, the agenda thereof was similarly posted, filed, and mailed to said newspapers. Open Public Meetings Act. Please take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 and in consideration of Executive Order Number 103, issued by Governor Murphy on March 9th, 2020, declaring a state of emergency in the state of New Jersey. The zoning board of the Township of Wyckoff does hereby notify the public that to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens, the meeting of the zoning board of the Township of Wyckoff, scheduled for Thursday, May 20th, 2021, will be conducted virtually through Zoom technology, and it will be live streamed on the Township of Wyckoff's YouTube channel. The work session is scheduled for 7:30 and the public business meeting will begin at 8 p.m. These measures are implemented to allow members of the public to observe the meeting via live streaming and to provide the ability to comment during the periods for public comment during the meeting through Zoom telephone call and technology. Joining the meeting by telephone will be utilized as security against the sharing of inappropriate video content. General instructions regarding access to this meeting is posted on the Wyckoff website homepage at www.wyckoff-nj.com as a news item. All applicants are hereby reminded that your application, if approved, may be subject to the terms, conditions, and payment of the affordable housing development fee requirements of the township. Information can be obtained from the code of the Township of Wyckoff, Chapter 113-8 on the township's website, www.wyckoff-nj.com. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. All right, Ms. Mitchell, roll call, please.
Ms. Rizvani,
Here.
Mr. Chris, Mr. Tanis,
Here.
Mr. Kalpagian, Mr. Hubert,
Present.
Ms. Riato,
Here.
Mr. Rubenacker, Mr. Borst,
Here.
Chairman Fry.
Here. Okay, why don't we start with the flag salute? Ms. Mitchell, if you would put a flag up on the screen, and we'll have Mr. Becker lead us, please.
Sure, if everybody could stand where they're at. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. Okay, good evening again, everyone. Just a couple of quick notes. As a reminder, we've been pretty successful with the Zoom, and just a reminder, if you can, just keep the microphone on mute until it's your turn to speak. That way we minimize the feedback and the crosstalk and the background noises. As we go through each application, we will open up to the public at some point. So if you have called in, then we will identify you either by number. Ms. Mitchell does a great job of identifying people that have called in, so everyone will have a chance to speak should they so desire. All right, we did some basic housekeeping in the work session. We went over the old business, resolutions for payment, 2105, and then the resolutions that we had memorialized. Just a couple of comments, again, in case you were not present for the work session. The Electrify America application, 525 Cedar Hill Avenue, they submitted a formal request to have the application withdrawn, so that application will not be heard tonight and will not be heard, period, because it has been officially withdrawn. We also have another application that was listed on the agenda. That was the Walsh application, 101 Kelowna Street. That application sent us a correspondence requesting that the meeting get carried, the application get carried to the June meeting. So that application will also not be heard this evening.
Just as another note, Chairman, since on the Walsh application, there was a request to carry it, which the board has acknowledged during the work session. They are not required to renotice, and since we're announcing it at tonight's meeting. So if anybody's listening in or participating, they have any interest in that, they won't be renoticed. They don't need to do so, but they will be heard at the next meeting.
Very good, thank you. Okay. All right, so we do have three new applications. The Barry application, 191 Van Houten Ave, block 292, lot 10. The Corolla application, 425 Redrock Road, block 497, lot 85. And then the 11 application, 321 Martin Road, block 289, lot 8. So we did go through them in the work session. Let's open the public session, and we'll start off with the Barry application, 191 Van Houten Ave.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Bruce Whitaker representing Ryan and Ray Ann Barry in connection with their request for variance relief for the property they own at 191 Van Houten Avenue in Wyckoff, shown on your tax map as block 292, lot 10. I'd like to give the board members and members of the public a brief overview of our application before we call our first witness. As you've also recognized, having witnessed your work session, you acknowledge that the property is deficient in lot area, being 17,356 square feet, where in this zone, 25,000 square feet is required. It's in the RA-25 rural residential district. There is a deficient front yard setback of 35.2 feet where 40 feet is required. What the applicant is proposing to do to this 1 1/2 story family dwelling unit is to upgrade the entire building and to add a level basically and create a roof over the current landing. What's important to note in this instance is that the proposal by the applicant is to basically build a second story over the footprint that exists there right now, to fill in that little niche in the front, to create obviously a more aesthetically and architecturally appropriate building, and upgrading the entire site, creating a couple of garages that will be much more efficient and usable. On the basis of what the applicant is proposing, the applicant is seeking 3 variances. The front yard setback is currently 35.2 feet. 40 feet is required. The applicant is not looking to modify that, but basically to take that non-conforming front yard setback, recognizing it's just for the landing, and have a roof installed over it with appropriately, it will still be open. And so that's not an enclosure, so it's just open, but your board recognizes that putting a roof over a landing is, from a safety aspect, is appropriate, and it doesn't exacerbate the current condition. The side yard setback is 19.8 feet. It is there now, it would remain, but because of the amount of square footage the house would now contain, we have an enhanced side yard setback of 25 feet. I think what's important to note is that, first, the side yard setback's not changing. Second, those of you who have observed the property or have looked at the plans recognize that there is extensive landscaping on this property already, especially on the side where the side yard setback is concerned. And what's also appropriate to recognize is that, and you acknowledged it in your work session, you'll recall that we represented and Mr. and Mrs. Canzani, the next door neighbor, received variance relief. And in your resolution, in that one of your findings of fact is that, quote, you acknowledge that a hardship, that the unique topography lessens the impact on neighbors. That was your comment in your resolution pertaining finding of fact in pertaining to a side yard setback. And I would submit that this still is appropriate in reverse. This side yard setback is greater than the 12 feet you granted next door, but the topographic conditions show that the height of this building, it's not on the same exact plane as the building next door. So that softens it between that and the landscaping itself. The last variance is for lot coverage, 16.2%, where 12.4% exists now, and 15%, as you know, is the maximum permitted. What's important to note is that we have a lot area that's only 69% of what's required. And the amount of the overage for the principal structure, I would submit, based on the disparity of what exists there now, would be de minimis in nature. You can see from the architectural plans that it results in a very large upgrade and aesthetically and architecturally with what currently exists there now. And of course, the other improvement will be that the utilities will be installed underground. So with that said, unless there's any questions of me, I believe we can appropriately show that variance relief is appropriate under a C1 criteria as well as a C2 criteria.
Mr. Whitaker, just for the record, if you're amenable, we'll mark the submission packet as A1, then you can just identify individual items. And then obviously if there's any additional items, we'll list them accordingly.
That's fine. And I have the record reflect that there should have been a check mark on Schedule J, and there's one spot in the application where it should say 16.2 rather than 16 as it pertains to coverage.
Thank you.
I have two witnesses tonight. I have Kirsten Osborne first, and then I will have Chris Canzani. You want to have both of them sworn in at the same time, Mr. Becker?
Yes, please. So if they could raise their right hand, please. You swear or affirm the testimony you'll give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
I do.
If you can just state your name for the record, spelling your last name. I'll start with the engineer.
Kirsten Osterkorn, Osterkorn, from Omlin and Osterkorn.
Thank you. I'll go to the architect.
Christopher Canzani, Canzani, from Canzani Associates Architects.
And the applicants themselves.
Yes, they are on. I believe they are on also. Yes. Ray and Barry's on. Raise your right hand.
You're muted.
Okay.
I'm muted.
Sorry, I hit it.
That's okay.
Rayanne Barry, Barry.
All right. Thank you.
Kirsten, you have been engaged as the engineer for this application. Is that correct?
Yes.
You've been previously qualified in the field of engineering, civil engineering, as well as a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. Is that correct?
Yes.
Since the last time you were qualified by this board, has there been any change in those licensings that you have?
No.
If I were to ask you the questions pertaining to your educational background and professional background, there's been no change, other than you've probably attended more meetings since the last time we saw you, correct?
Correct.
Board members, I would ask that she be qualified as an expert witness in the field of civil engineering as well as planning for the purposes of this hearing.
Absolutely. Ms. Osterkorn's been before the board plenty of times. She's certainly qualified.
Thank you very much. Ms. Osborne, I would like you to just take us through the existing conditions on the site.
Sure. I'm gonna share my screen. Can I share, Maureen? I don't know if I'm allowed to share.
Is it allowing you?
No, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I am going to make you my co-host so that you
Nice.
you just settle down, girlfriend, and you should be able to share your screen.
Very nice. Now I can.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to, this is the sheet 2 of the set that was marked Exhibit A1 that Mr. Becker had marked. The one thing I'm just noting is my blue line on the plan. That is where the fence is. I'm not sure why it wasn't shown, but I confirmed in my survey. As I'm a surveyor too, so I can testify that this is accurate with the blue line. From when you were out there, the fence line is here. It connects from the rear right corner, back right corner of the site to the wall. And questions as to the property line there, we have an existing corner in the back. So the fencing is slightly in, which why the setbacks may seem off to the property.
I just paid you a compliment. You couldn't use a straight edge?
Shush, I was doing this on Adobe. I've never drawn a straight line on that before. It's not very difficult.
Whose fence is it?
It is the Barry's fence.
Okay, it is, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So both fences are theirs. They just are in on their property a little bit more.
That's fine, okay.
Okay, so as explained by Mr. Whitaker, we are 191 Van Houten Ave, block 292, lot 10. We're at the corner of Van Houten and Demoris Ave. Currently, we have a 1.5 story frame dwelling on the property fronting on Van Houten. The driveway is on the south side of the house. The property currently slopes from the corner of Demoris and Van Houten, so from west to east to the rear corner of the site. And for those that have been out there, there is a lot of existing buffering and trees along Demoris and along the rear of the property. The rear yard is very secluded. We have an existing tree row along the southeast side, however, we could say the south side of the property. that's on the top of the existing modular wall that's along on that side of the property. As explained, we have some existing nonconformities in lot area. 25,000 is required. We have 17,356 with the property width 120 feet is required. When we look at the property frontage on Van Houten, we have 116 feet. With the front yard setback, 40 feet is required. We have existing 35.2 to the existing stoop that is proposed to be covered. And we have an existing 26.6 on the Demoris side. The side yard setback with the current house conditions, 20 feet is required and existing is 19.8, so just slightly under the required. Under proposed conditions with the enhanced side yard setback, 25 feet is required and we're still remaining at the 19.8 feet. When we look at the neighborhood, from those who have driven around there, the section of Van Houten, as well as we have our neighboring streets with Demoris Ave, Jeffer Court, Sunset Boulevard, Martom Road, and West Stevens, they're all developed properties and houses more to today's standards. So the existing dwelling is slightly dated and the proposed renovations will bring it more into conformance with today's standards and fit in with the neighborhood. Speaking to the proposed conditions on the right side of my plan, they plan to renovate the house. They're adding a second floor. We're going to expand the current garage to be more fitting for the cars to fit in. And as if you look at the architecturals, then they have a little mudroom area for when they enter in with their kids and cubbies and stuff. So it provides the extra space needed to still be able to park the cars in the garage. The addition out the back is within all conforming setbacks and it's for a family room, and the deck that was there is being moved over, but still in conformance with setbacks as well. The area of the addition, it's not discernible from the street. I mean, when you come into Van Houten, when you're looking at it straight on, the fact that there's going to be the proposed addition to the front, you won't as much notice. You'll notice a second story addition and the addition to the rear. Given the grade changes when you're driving down Van Houten or if you come down Sunset, it's not going to exacerbate the property. It's not overbuilding the site while we do have a building coverage variance. The stoop in the front that currently exists, they're going to cover it, and which is why we have the setback, the variance for the setback for the 35.2. With the addition on the side, with going up the story, we are still keeping the 19.8 existing setback. We're not making it any worse than what is currently there. We're simply going up with the second story addition. We are proposing a seepage pit in the front yard to handle the roof water. So the increase in the coverage will be handled with a drainage system. And we have some proposed landscaping in the front. We're keeping the landscaping on the side. There's also, as I know noted, that we worked on the property next door, the proposed landscaping evergreens that were proposed from the previous application that will be put there, as well as our existing plantings will remain. And then we have our proposed foundation plantings along the front. We did consult with our landscape architect who confirmed and agreed with the plantings that we're proposing. Speaking to the bulk requirements, 15% is required, and we're proposing 16.2% for building coverage, which is including the garage. This is one of our variances we're proposing. Overall coverage, including accessory structures, we have our deck and our shed. We're still under 20% allowed, and we're at 18.8%. So with the addition to the front of the garage to make it a more usable garage while still enhancing the inside as a more functioning with the mudroom, and the proposed family room out the back, we are slightly over. However, as explained, given the undersized lot, if the lot was in conformance with size, we would not have the variance. So it's very de minimis. We're only 1.2% over what's allowed. Impervious coverage, given even the building coverage, we're still under 35% required. We're at 25.4%. It's a pretty site. So I'm going to move on to my planning. As explained by Mr. Whitaker, we have our C1 and our C2 variances that we're looking for. The renovation and addition is appropriate for the neighborhood. The project does fit within the intent and purpose of the zone plan. We're building up the property, but not overbuilding the site. And its conformance and look to the neighborhood, its streetscape will enhance, which is part of the purpose of the zone plan. We have our pre-existing nonconformity with respect to the lot width and lot area. With it being a lawfully existing structure, we're not exacerbating what's being proposed. We are simply building up or building out in the back, but everything that's being built out is in conformance with requirements. The front yards, we have our pre-existing non-conforming setbacks for Van Houten and Demoris. As explained, they will remain. They're not going over anything that's already there. With the southeast side, the second floor addition, it is non-conforming and we're staying with it. The building size, it increases, which triggers that enhanced setback. But with the lot being undersized by 9 feet, if we did have a conforming width and it was placed, we wouldn't actually have that setback if we had the total width to work with. As explained, I sort of intertwined it into my testimony with the neighbor to the southeast. We have our buffering with our privacy with the existing arborvitae row, the proposed landscaping that's going to go in. We've also explained with the topography change, we have about a 4 to 5 foot difference between the properties. So it doesn't seem as drastic as the distance between the lots. We are talking about 2 garages. The impact to the neighbor, there's a garage on this side, the neighbor to the southeast that was before you as well is also the garage side of the property as well. And again, it will be in more conformance with a lot of the houses in the neighborhood. I think I went through the building coverages. From the planning perspective, we don't believe the house is overbuilt with respect to the lot area and it's being upgraded to more of a common style, especially with the street enhancing the streetscape. It's a substantial benefit from a streetscape perspective with the C2 variance relief. When I go and look through the purposes of planning with purpose A of promoting the health, safety, and general welfare, by creating the covered landing in the front, that is more of a safety with the weather conditions. Purpose B, securing safety from flood. We're adding in the drainage structure to alleviate any flooding potential neighbor effects on neighborhoods or the public. Purpose I, with the desirable visual environment, the new residence being an upgrade to the neighborhood. Compared to the negative criteria, I didn't find any substantial detriment to the public good. The front yard is going to remain in line with the neighborhood, and the side yard setbacks to remain is not going to cause any negative impact to the neighbors. And I did not find any substantial impairment to the zone plan. There is a lot of buffering that exists with the properties and along the frontage and the rear that this addition and enhancement will not have negative impact to the property, to the neighborhood or the zone plan.
In connection with this overall plan, from a planning perspective, would it be your opinion that the 1.2% overage on lot coverage is de minimis based upon the size of the lot?
Yes.
From a planning perspective, is it appropriate in redesigning a structure that's lawfully existing to attempt to continue with where the lawfully existing structure is and not exacerbate any setback conditions?
Yes.
And in this instance, there is no exacerbation of those current non-conforming conditions, correct?
Correct.
And then finally, as far as the lots itself is concerned, it's recognized these garages and this 19.8 setback, again, it faces the garages on the Kinzani property next door.
Correct.
I have nothing further at this time.
And that concludes my testimony.
Questions by board members?
Sorry, I was muted. Board, any questions for the engineer? Okay, then we can move on.
Okay. I have Chris Kinzani next. Mr. Kinzani, can you share a screen?
Should I
and
stop
put-
sharing? I should stop sharing, right?
Yes,
Right.
please.
Thank you.
Make-
Is Chris going to?
Yeah, Chris co-host.
Share?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll share now.
Oh,
Yeah. if you
giving up all my power here tonight.
could-
You will now be a co-host.
Perfect.
Okay, Chris, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members for hearing us tonight. Good evening. As Mr. Whitaker and Ms. Osterkorn described, the overall project is essentially an add a level of an existing 3-bedroom ranch home. And the ultimate thought is to get some of the bedrooms upstairs and free up some living space on the first floor, as well as expand the garage forward, creating a mudroom in the back, along with a family room at the rear. Looking at the front, the most dramatic change is that second story addition to it. And the overall style and massing is that of more of kind of an expanded cape with a first floor plate of the roof structure extending up to the ridge, and then kind of the gables and dormers puncturing that roof line. So it kind of gives a varied, softer kind of look to the exterior, breaking up the overall massing and height. I'll also mentioned is our overall height is at, I believe, just below 32 feet on the right side at the highest point. At the left side, we're just under 30. So we're kind of following the natural grade and topography of the site and stepping down the overall ridge as we do move down from the corner towards the other property and the garage. As noted, the front porch actually already has a roof over the top of it. We're just expanding the roof that is there to fit the style of the proposed house. And then again, trying to keep the roof pitches, to a pleasing dimension. They're at about a 13 pitch right now on the front and closer to an 11 on the side. So, we still have a little wiggle room in the height, but I think what is proposed is certainly an improvement upon the existing conditions.
Chris, what
Yep.
type of building material are you proposing?
So on the first floor currently is a brick, and the applicant is proposing to stucco over the top of the existing brick rather than take it off of the house and paint that. And for the second floor, it would be a simulated either PVC or vinyl shingle product. The roofing would be an asphalt dimensional shingle, PVC trim, window casings throughout, and aluminum gutters and leaders down to grade.
Mr. Kanzani, you're familiar with this neighborhood and other buildings within the neighborhood, correct?
Correct.
Would you say that this style and dimensions that are here are not out of character with what is on some of the other lots within the neighborhood?
No, exactly. That's part of what we're trying to achieve here is not just build, an add a level that goes straight up. And, we try to do that expanded cape look to try and build it into the roof, and it kind of softens the overall scale within the neighborhood and kind of fits everything else.
Thank you. No other questions, board members?
So then moving around to the side, you can kind of see that, end gable of the Cape Cod style home. You can see here in the front, this is that expansion of the garage forward, still back from the existing front of the house. And then at the rear, you can see the proposed family room addition there. Moving around to the left side elevation facing Demoris. Again, very similar look to the other side of the house with all windows centered, on the gables. And then at the back, again, you see the family room projecting, and the proposed deck that would be off of that proposed family room. Again, at the rear, you see the family room proposed in this kind of center of the existing house massing, along with the deck at the right connecting there. Again, stepping down from the Demoris side down towards the adjacent property. Moving, so first floor, you can see here, again, the existing covered porch is just being upgraded, improved, new columns wrapped in PVC, bluestone porch. Big improvement to the flow of the house and getting the bedrooms upstairs. We can flip the entry door to the other side, and get it closer to the driveway. And where the existing foyer was an existing living room. So that was the primary kind of hangout area of the house. So now it becomes more of a formal foyer, stair leading up to the second floor, office at the front left, and dining at the right. At the back left, we maintain an existing bedroom there and rework a bathroom at the left-hand side. Leaving the foyer, moving towards the rear, we enter an expanded kitchen. And then at the right, pantry. That leads to the mudroom at the right. That was Miss Osterkornota's. And that's basically kind of the reason for extending the garage forward, so we can maintain 22 plus feet in there, so we can get the proper distance for the cars. And then moving open to the kitchen, and the hallway at the back here connects to the proposed family room, and then deck as discussed. Moving up to the second floor, we come up the stairs to a landing here that overlooks the foyer. On the kind of open to that area is kind of a desk area tucked in for the kids here at the right. Left-hand side is 2 kids' bedrooms, closets, shared bath off the hall, laundry, and then the right side is comprised of the master bedroom suite with bathroom, closets, and bedroom. Yeah, so overall, it just moving the bedrooms upstairs just creates such an opportunity to get a better flow and living spaces within the home.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Questions, board members?
Question on demolition. How much is going to be done? I know I see on A1, and based on this brick veneer, I guess you're going to stucco it. So you have no plans to basically do any major demolition? You're going to use the existing walls as I from, there's no variances because you're taking the same footprint.
Correct. Yeah. The thought is to maintain as many existing exterior walls as possible. Obviously, we'll have to modify the window openings to fit the new massing and gables on the house. And then there's some modification on the interior as well. So you can see, these walls that are hatched are proposed new, kind of infilling existing openings. And then there's, a variety of walls that remain as the bearing wall of the house runs down the middle. So we're not really messing with the overall structural system of the home.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Kenzani, just a couple of questions.
Sure.
So just so I have a visual, stucco, I would not say is common to that neighborhood really at all. But you're saying it's conforming to the neighborhood. So you've got a combination of blue stone in the front, which is kind of country-ish, very, classic, like traditional type. Then you're going to do stucco on the first floor, and then a vinyl siding for the second floor, the gable ends. How is that all going to tie together? Just so I have it in my own head, like color. Sure. How did you intend this all to come together?
Yeah, the thought on the lower level, I mean, the brick is not a finish that they were too fond of, and the expense of removing said brick is not something they were looking to do. And as far as they did want to kind of mix up the exterior kind of texture of the home. So this we thought was a pretty good opportunity to do so while maintaining the existing brick. The thought is that it would be a lighter, off whitish color for the stucco, and then the top of the vinyl or PVC or simulated shakes or hardy would be either they're between a couple colors, but would be a darker color than that. So kind of a medium gray or up from there. But you do see it in older, like Tudor style homes. You see the bottoms kind of stuccoed, and then the upper parts, kind of mix in shingles and things like that. So that's kind of the feel that we were shooting for.
Gotcha. Because the style that you've created, it would not be typical of a stucco type house.
Certainly not.
So we'll make a couple of comments. I think you're 100% right, where bringing the gables off the front and carrying that roof line down very low, to me, changes the entire dynamic with this application. Because if it's maxed out to the top and you see a big wall in front of you, and people do, a nice job architecturally of trying to clean that up, but it just creates a completely different appearance of the house. And the advantage is you're going to just under 32 feet, but there is a rather steep slope, and coming down that hill, I don't see that really being an issue whatsoever, because it's a rather steep hill as you come down. So I do like the fact that you did that. The gable ends, sometimes we like to have that pushed in a little bit. You're going up over the existing. I think with what you're looking to do, that would be a challenge for trying to from an architectural standpoint, get that to tie. But the neighbor really to the right, who I'm assuming probably doesn't have a problem with this application, they went through something of their own. They just have a gable end on theirs, so it's not a big mass of wall necessarily. So I do like the fact that that's rather small as well. So just to those points, I'm glad Mr. Hubert asked the question, because I was going to ask that as well. How much is remaining of the existing structure? What are the floor heights going to be? What's the ceiling height going to be, first floor, then second floor?
So first floor is currently 8 feet, and we are keeping that there in order to maintain the majority of the existing structure. At the rear, we are raising up in the family room for that area, as we have the opportunity with nothing above it. And then the second floor is an 8-foot ceiling.
So 8 foot and 8 foot.
Yep.
Okay. So then attic wise, what is that going to leave attic wise?
I'm sorry, Mr. Fry, I misspoke. Actually, as I'm looking at my drawing, not on my computer, it's 8'6" is the first floor. So the thought is to add 4 additional 2x plates on top of the existing 8-foot stud in order to, again, maintain a lot of the existing, perimeter walls, rather than sistering up every stud around the perimeter to get it up to 9 feet. Sorry about that.
No problem. So first floor is 8'6", second floor is 8 foot.
Correct.
Okay. And then attic, what's the attic height to the peak?
So from the, let's see here. It is, hang on one sec. It is from the top of the ceiling joist to the bottom of the ridge beam at the highest point. You're at 8 feet, so that's at the middle. If we're looking at, hang on, oops, it's not going back. Let's see, there we go. So if we're looking at the side, you can see, this is about at the 8-foot mark in here. So we're 8 feet in the middle, and then, obviously it slopes down tremendously at the sides. In the middle, there's some shed roofs that are hidden between gables, so there is a little bit more volume in that location. And then on the second floor, we had the space to get a attic stair up there, kind of at the middle of the structure. So we took that opportunity to do so rather than a pull down.
So that was the reason I was asking the question. So it's a full staircase up to the attic.
Yeah, proposed unfinished though.
Proposed unfinished, okay. It's a nice feature. Obviously, we just have to ask the questions, because then it opens up, and next thing you know, you have a couple more rooms up in the attic.
Sure.
So as long as you're testifying, it will be unfinished and remain unfinished.
So
Okay.
stipulated, Mr. Chairman. Yes.
Great, thank you. And it's going to be a 4-bedroom home. Is that correct?
Correct.
3 up, 1 down.
Yep, that's right.
All right, and then the office doesn't have a closet, no bathroom.
Correct.
Okay. Are they proposing a generator?
I'm not sure. I believe I would have to verify with Ms. Osterkorn's plan, but I would have her testify to that. Doesn't appear so.
Okay.
We've got an AC unit
Yep.
adjacent to the proposed family room. Yeah.
And that family room is single story in the back.
Correct.
I don't have a generator on my plan unless that was of thought by the Barrys.
You're not proposing a generator, right?
Not at this time, no.
No.
Okay. I do see the AC unit, which is well outside the setback, and you've got screening around it. That's good. Okay.
I actually got a text from the applicants saying if possible, they would like to include a generator. I don't know if that's possible at this time or that muddies the waters here.
Well, depending on where you'd be looking to place it, it might muddy the waters.
I believe if we located it within that corner to the rear of the garage and adjacent to where the AC unit is proposed, that would make sense.
Sort of in that corner.
Mm-hmm. Kind of in here.
Right.
So it wouldn't require any variance relief.
Right. Just depending on what would happen, we'd just have to revise the plans to show it. Okay. Okay, so let me open it up to the board, and then maybe we'll hit that back, because I just have some questions about the landscaping, which will kind of tie to the proposed generator too. All right, board, any questions for the architect?
I have one more comment actually that was brought up by the owner with regard to the stucco on the first floor. Is it something that they would be? Their question is, are they tied to stucco on the first floor, or if they decided to, if they did hardy on the second and they matched it on the first, they're just, trying not to tie their hands right now.
Yeah, I understand. The only thing is the board would, for one, at the end of the day, whatever we agree to, we're trying to have that vision so we understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So we wouldn't want that to be changed. If they were looking for hardy or vinyl, that's a similar appearance, then we probably wouldn't have too many issues. Hardy's obviously always preferred vinyl, although they've come a long way with vinyls. But I mean, it's a nice finish. It's certainly very common in that neighborhood as well. So if they are not going for stucco, because I'm surprised I haven't heard more comments from any of the board members maybe yet about the stucco. Maybe they will, but we would want that identified when we approve.
Okay.
Okay. All right, board, any questions or comments for the architect?
Mr. Kanzani, what are the proposed overhangs on the side? I see you're carrying a skirt roof, it looks like, around the sides. What's the overhang from the existing structural wall?
Yeah, 2 feet from the face of the existing exterior wall.
Okay.
And then when you get up to where the gable end overhangs, on this side is at 1 feet on the right, and then the left side it was 1'4". And the reason for carrying that out 1'4" is just to clear the gutter line here, rather than intersecting and the gutter protruding past.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Board, any other questions? Okay. All right. Maybe what we'll do really quick is, Ms. Mitchell, do we have anyone on from the public?
Yes, let me find out who's who here. Hang on one sec. There's someone with phone number 973-345. 973-454-5183. Are you calling in about this application? You have to unmute.
Whoever has the phone number 973-345, 973-454-5183. Please unmute yourself. Just identify if you have called in to speak on behalf of the application of 191 Van Houden.
It's Ray Barry. That's my husband's phone number. He's dialing in.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I just recognized it. I'm like, wait, that's my husband's phone number. So he's
Okay.
listening that way. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, let me ask the next person. George Farah, are you calling in about the Barry application?
No,
Okay, what application are you calling in on, sir?
Corolla.
Okay,
We're just listening in. We're the neighbors behind.
okay, so when we open to the public on that application, would you like to comment?
I really don't have any comments. I'm just listening.
Okay, all right, we'll get back to you. We'll check in with you later.
Thank you.
Yep. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, that's it. Okay. All right. So we opened it up to the public for public comments. We have no one from the public that cares to speak on behalf of the Barry application 191 Van Houten Ave. Okay, so we can close public comment. Okay. Can we just talk really quick about the landscaping? I think that was maybe Ms. Osterkorn.
Yes. Have her recalled. Yes, says walk us through what exists there and then what is being proposed.
Oh, hold on. I lost my plan.
Maybe you just share your screen again and pull up that that plot plan as proposed.
Sure. Oh, Michelle's got to give me the power again. I mean, Maureen's got to give me the power again.
Yes, coming right up, ma'am.
And for, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, in the meantime, I had the opportunity to talk with my client. The building will be all hardy plank. The word stucco is out of our vocabulary.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Whitaker.
You're welcome.
Yes, Mr. Fry.
Okay. All right, perfect. All right, so can you just go over what is going to be, there's a significant amount of construction that's going to be taking place on the site. So I just want to be clear, at the end of the day, what is going to be there, what you're proposing to add, and then maybe we can have some quick discussion. I do see the AC units on the side of the family room, and there is screening proposed around that. And then a proposed generator also in that same corner. We should probably discuss some screening around that as well.
That would be screened as well, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Okay. I wanted to just, because let me share my other screen.
Oh, no. I'm just listening. I just want to, Yeah.
This is Google Street View.
I am.
So from those, when you went there, it's a different view, but all the landscaping that's on the side here, which are not these trees anymore. Let's go back to this view. These trees, these are all going to remain. I know they're not on my plan. They're existing. And then the trees that are along the rear side, the rear of the property as well. And then let me go back to, there's a tree row along the rear as well. That's, I think, on the other side of the fence that will remain. And then there's the tree row that's on top of the modular wall along the side of the house that will remain. So with the proposed work that's happening, given the tree row that's on the Demoris side, we didn't propose any foundation plantings along this side. We proposed them just along the frontage, and then we proposed some around where the AC units would go, and where the generator would go would also have a buffering plants in front of them.
Okay.
So Kirsten, it'd be correct to say that based upon the fact that we're building up over what exists there now, there's no proposal to remove any of the large landscaping that exists there now. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. We're just going to enhance more of the front by doing the foundation plantings and then around the equipment.
I'm just trying to understand from the plant schedule what these items are. So
the Blue Point, the junipers that are taller, they're 6 to 7 feet. They sit on either side of the covered landing to kind of straddle, the front entrance to be of a taller evergreen style. And then the rest are rhododendrons, the sweet spire and the boxwoods that are displaced off of the front along the left side of the covered landing, the right. And then you have, I think it's the boxwoods that are around the equipment. So yeah, the boxwoods are only around the equipment. The sweet spires and the rhododendrons are just interspersed around the juniper that just is straddling both sides of that covered landing.
gotcha. Okay. I see now the quantity and the ID kind of blended into the plan. I didn't see it before.
Sorry.
No problem. Okay. And you're going to propose the same similar boxwoods around the generator?
Yes.
Okay, maybe similar quantity. Okay. All right, Mr. Borsch, do you have any comments on the landscape plan?
I do not.
Okay. Mr. DeGennaro, do you have any questions or comments on the landscape plan?
No, the only comment I'll make is if the generator is placed in the back, it usually needs to be screened, but it looks like they're going to have plenty of screening in that back side there.
Yeah.
Right, there's a row of evergreens down that whole right side.
The
Right.
side, yeah. And then
But
you,
they may want to just screen it so they're not looking at it as well. Okay. All right. Board, any other questions for either the engineer or the architect? And you heard Mr. Whitaker before, the finish proposed will be hardy plank top and bottom. All right, everybody's pretty quiet.
Let's get that in the resolution because we're going to need a revised plan then as well to stipulate that if it's
Yep.
called out as stucco for
It'll
construction.
be- I'll put it in the resolution.
And we will stipulate in the resolution that generator location would be adequately planned like the air conditioners.
We're going to get a revised plan as well for submittal to the building department.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, and members of the board, that concludes our presentation. We'd respectfully request the variance relief be granted as requested based upon the submission of the evidence we've presented to you this evening from a planning perspective.
Okay. All right, very good. I'll look up one last time to any board members that have any final comments or questions. Anyone?
No.
Okay. All right, so generator is now being proposed. We do have a location for it. That would have to be identified on a revised plan with the screening that's also going to be proposed. The other stipulation is the hardy plank. So the drawings currently show stucco on the first floor, so that would be revised to show hardy plank top and bottom. And as we heard before, there is a full staircase to the attic. However, as Mr. Whitaker mentioned, the attic will remain unfinished, proposed and will remain unfinished. All other landscaping around the perimeter will remain. All the plantings that we see currently across the Demoris side and then across the back will be untouched and remain. Or just one condition, if they are damaged, they are replaced in kind. I guess they're relatively new, but just make sure that they're replaced in kind. And I didn't catch it. You're going to do an underground service on this house?
I've heard that said, yes.
Many times.
Good. Excellent. Okay. All right. Board, I will entertain a motion on the, I keep losing my cover page, Barry application 191 Van Houten Ave, block 292, lot 10.
I'll make a motion to accept 191 Van Houten Avenue, block 292, lot 10, with the stipulations as mentioned by Chairman Fry.
Okay. All right, Mr. Becker, you're good on the stipulations, or do we have to go through them again?
No, I'm good. I've got them down. They'll be in the resolution.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Borst. So I have a second.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Ms. Riotto.
Mr. Tanis,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Ms. Riotto, Mr. Borst,
Yeah.
Chairman Fry.
Yes. Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Nice job with the application. Thank you for not
Thank you very much.
going crazy with it and making it more challenging for the board. We appreciate that. Good luck with construction.
Thank you.
Okay, next application is the Corolla application, 425 Redrock Road, block 497, lot 85.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Bruce Whitaker from the firm of McDonald Whitaker, representing the applicant Anthony and Lisa Corolla. This is an application pertaining to 425 Redrock Road in Wyckoff, an application for the installation of a swimming pool. There is no change proposed to the building that's located on the property now, which is a single-family dwelling unit. This property is shown on your tax map as block 497, lot 85, and it's in the multifamily affordable housing rural residential zone. The property currently meets all bulk requirements. The applicant is proposing to construct a swimming pool that will result in a deficiency as it pertains to the rear yard setback and a side yard setback. We recognize that there's really no above ground structure here. It's basically the infringement of a patio around the pool to the side yard and the rear yard setback. I believe what we can look at here, and we're working on a revised plan that Mr. Vince, our engineer, will testify to tonight. The plan is April the 28th of 2021. That's the last revision date. What we're looking at is a very unique piece of property. I understand many of you have visited already. We recognize that we have a large wall to the rear, and between that and the landscaping that's there now, the pool itself will not be readily discernible to anyone else based upon those topographic conditions. And I believe that the C1 criteria for unusual topographic conditions actually works in favor of the applicant here as far as the setback infringements are concerned. A couple of stipulations to make is that we are proposing to place the fence on the top of the wall that exists there now, with the understanding that none of the trees that are above that wall are to be disturbed for the purposes of the installation of the fence. With that said, it's also understood that there is no permanent structures on the patio that would infringe into the rear yard setback, that it's merely the patio itself and the coping of the pool. The pool, I would submit to you, is not the typical 20 by 40 or or 22 by 45-foot size pools that many are installed today that I see on plans, but rather is a very modest pool, and it's in an appropriate location. There were some other modifications made to the plan by Hall's Engineering when they first looked at this. It's recognized that from a code compliance standpoint, there has to be a fence around the pool, and also that a pool should be 10 feet away from the primary structure, which it is in this instance. We submit that relief is appropriate under a C1 criteria. And unless there's any questions of me, I have Mr. Vince here to testify as to the engineering aspect. And then I have Jessica Booth from Horst Landscaping for purposes of testifying as to additional landscaping that is proposed for this site.
Just for the record, board member Mark Boris did recuse himself. He's gone off screen and muted. Just for the record, I want to make that clear. As well as Mr. Whitaker, the plan submitted by, that was prepared by Hall's Engineering, date November 18, 2020. We can mark that as A1 if that's acceptable to you.
Yeah, with a final revision date of 4/28/21.
You got it.
And I want to just for the record state that on the basis of the 4/28/21 plan, the addendum to the application that I submitted initially, paragraph 1 of that addendum is no longer pertinent or relevant. Have Mr. Vince and Ms. Booth both sworn in?
Sure. If they could both raise their right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You do.
I'll start with Mr. Vince. If you could state your name for the record, spelling your last name, and then Ms. Booth.
Sure. Joseph Vince, V-I-N-C-E.
Ms. Booth.
Jessica Booth, Booth.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Vince has been previously qualified as an expert witness before the board. Mr. Vince, have you had any change in your qualifications and your licensing as a civil engineer in the state of New Jersey since the last time you testified?
No.
Okay. Members of the board, I would ask.
Mr. Vince will be testifying as the engineer?
Civil engineer, that's correct, from Hall's Engineering.
Okay. Yeah, he's testified before the board. His credentials are fine.
Thank you. Mr. Vince, you are familiar with the property and familiar with the plans that have been prepared and submitted with the application. Is that correct?
Yes.
I would like you to walk us through what the existing conditions are and then what is being proposed.
Sure. Let me share my screen. If I could have permission, please.
Okay, you can share your screen.
Okay. So I have Exhibit A1 up on the screen now. So the property is 425 Redrock Road. It's lot 85 and block 497. It's located in the MFAH5 zone, which is the multifamily affordable housing zone. The property is relatively rectangular in shape. However, it is really a pie shape, slightly a pie, where it's wider at the back and narrow at the front. We're along a curve in the road. The dimensions are approximately 100 to 104 feet in depth by 80 to 81 feet in width. You could see it's deeper on the left side, which would be the south side, than the north side, and it's wider at the rear than it is in the front. The zone requirements for is 7,500 square foot lots, and we do have a lot containing 8,865 square feet. The property is currently developed with a single family dwelling, driveway, and a patio at the rear. All the existing improvements are fully conforming to the zone, the dwelling and the improvements. And our proposal is to construct an in-ground swimming pool at the rear of the site with an associated patio. That's pretty much the proposal. The site is unique due to the zoning. It is a smaller lot than what currently exists, a lot of the other lots in town. Also, there's a large retaining wall at the rear of the property. The neighbor to the west, to the rear of us, is a high side. We are the low side of the wall. And there are large evergreen trees along the top of that wall. I actually have some photographs that I would like to mark in. I guess we could call them A2. I believe these are the photographs that were submitted was part of the application. So you can see first photograph, the northeast corner of the property from the center of the house. So you can see here on the left side of the photograph, the large evergreens that currently exist and the retaining wall, the existing patio. The second photograph is the northeast corner of the property. So this is standing right at the right side of the house when you enter the rear yard. You can see the neighbor's fence to the right, measured it. It's a 5-foot fence. It's solid up to 4 feet, and then it's open style at the last foot or so. And they also have emerald arborvitaes along their property line. The third photograph is looking towards the house from the rear of the property by the wall. You can note on the right side of this photograph is the neighbor to the left of us. The same fence carries through. So I know there were some questions in the work session as to who owns the fence. The property owner, they do own the fence. It's on this property. As far as the trees, I'm not sure who owns them, but certainly the fence is owned by my client. You can see on the neighboring property to the left, there's also large arborvitaes and evergreen shrubs around the border of the property. And then lastly, the fourth photo is standing at the edge of the patio, looking towards the area of this proposed swimming pool. Where I'm indicating with my mouse would be the location of the pool. The wall actually does get taller as you go towards the south of the site, towards that corner where the pool would be. And the arborvitaes at the top of the slope are relatively the same height. So the tops of the arborvitaes are pretty standard. The retaining wall is a couple feet into the subject property, so the wall is owned by the property owner. However, the arborvitaes at the rear, it's kind of unclear. I was out there today and I measured, the wall is about 2 feet off the property line to the face. And when I measured off the face of the wall, some of the trees were on the property, some were off, some were right on the line. So as far as who owns the trees, it's not quite certain at this point in time.
In connection with the fence that's being proposed, Mr. Fence, the stipulation we're making is that the trees themselves are not going to be touched, so to speak, in order to install the fence. Is that correct?
Well, they may have to be trimmed. I did have a conversation with Boris today about the fence, and the proposal was to install it along the top of the wall, which would certainly be on our property. But because they overhang, they may have to be trimmed back, and the fence would have to be installed in that location.
Any trimming that would occur would just be trimming over the part that overhangs onto our property.
That's correct. We wouldn't be trimming onto the neighboring property.
And it would not be a tree removal.
No. It may get trimmed back towards the trunk in order to fit it in, and you could see an example of that on the neighboring property where the fence is kind of set in and the trees grow over the fence. That may be the condition up there. And if the fence guy feels that he may not be able to install it in that fashion, then the fence would have to be relocated onto the property. I know there were some questions about the safety and the code as far as a fence in relationship to a wall. And the way the code reads is that if the pool fence or the barrier is clear from other structures by 3 feet, then it is conforming. So we do have the space to provide that. So the alternate location, if we couldn't put the fence on the top of the wall, would be at the bottom on our property, 3 feet from the retaining wall in an area that I'm indicating with my mouse. And we could tie that into the existing fence so the barrier would be there. And then they could bring that around and either continue it along the back or tie it into the house. But certainly there are ways that we can comply with the barrier code, and we will be leaving the evergreen shrubs.
And so the side yard and rear yard setbacks that we're talking about run to basically where the fence demarcation is, correct?
Say that again? I'm
And
not sure.
I mean, the wall demarcation.
Yes, it's, the pool is proposed a couple feet off the face of the wall. So the pool structure itself is approximately 4 feet off the face of the wall. And the patio is approximately 2 feet off the face of the wall. So yeah, the pool is gonna be right in the corner here.
So based upon the calculations that you've given us, if it is found and determined that the fence cannot go at the top of the wall and it had to be installed 3 feet from the wall, then we would reduce the pool width, correct? For purposes of still conforming to the code requirements.
Yes, if we had to, yes, that's what we would end up doing.
But in any event, the variance would not be exacerbated beyond what we're requesting now, correct?
No, that's correct. Yes, if anything, the pool would be reduced in size.
Okay, by approximately, my calculations, don't let a lawyer do math, but probably be reduced by about a foot,
That's
correct?
pretty good. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, and can you just point out on your plan now, back to that plan, where that variance relief is sought?
Okay. So I'm gonna zoom in here. So the variance relief would be along the rear property line. You can see where I'm indicating with my mouse. That's the wall there. The little boxes indicate the proposed fence on top of the wall. We have a dimension to the physical pool itself is 6 feet. And Wyckoff calculates it to the edge of the patio. So it would be 3.6 feet to the patio. And that would be at the rear. And then again, we got 9 feet from the property line to the pool itself, where 10 feet is required. And then we have 6.3 feet to the edge of the patio. And we're providing a little bit of patio around the edge just to, keep the grass clippings and the landscaping from going in the pool and washing in and some of the debris. And also giving us an access around the pool to maintain it. And also in the event, I guess if there's an emergency or something, somebody can hop out and get onto a solid surface.
What is the dimensions of the pool itself?
It's a free form pool, obviously, but it's roughly 33 feet long. And at the narrow spot here, it's approximately 13 feet wide, and it goes to approximately 16 feet wide at the widest spot. And
I mentioned earlier that typically pool sizes are larger than this. Would you concur on basis of plans that you've prepared for various clients?
Yeah, standard full-size pool is about 20 by 40, and that gets you a nice 8-foot depth. I did do some research on size of pools. I know that the client had informed me that they were trying to get about a 6-foot depth out of this pool, and that's appropriate for a 33-foot length because you have to be able to slope the bottom of the pool. So the length and the width that's being proposed, it's relatively modest in size, but it is appropriate to still allow them to get the 6-foot depth so they feel like they're in an actual pool and not like a lap pool per se. So that's kind of how we came up with the dimensions. Also, because of the 10-foot requirement, what we did was the pool is free form there so that it comes, and we tried to contour the shape of the pool to the existing house so that we can maintain that 10-foot separation. Partly for safety concerns, and then also just for access to be able to get around the pool and get over to the side yard here where the pool equipment filter is and the AC pad, and just be able to get through with a relatively decent amount of space. So that's why the pool had to be shifted towards the rear, because we have limited space at the back, and we felt that it was more important to maintain the space against the house. Not that maintaining the space against the rear is not as important, but certainly with the topographic constraints, we believe that it would be less noticeable to have it towards the rear with the wall there.
Thank you. I have no further questions at this time.
Okay. You want me to get into planning proofs or just you're good with the C1?
I'm going to go from here. I want to put the, I want to see if there was any questions about the dimensions that the board members have before we do the planning.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Whitaker. So, Mr. Vince, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
So, the more we're looking at this, the more I'm starting to envision what you're putting out there and how things might be getting tighter and tighter as we get further into it. So one thing I would like to understand is the rear yard slopes up. So from a topographical perspective, it looks like it's lower if you're at the patio versus at the retaining wall. By probably a couple feet.
Yes, it is. It is slightly, yes, it's slightly higher in elevation at this rear corner here.
So, yeah, so it's about 2 feet, 324 down to 320 up against the house. So is there going to be a reveal on one side, on the house side of the pool, or do you build that up and then with material and then slope it straight down to the house? How's that going to look?
Well, the intent is to grade down towards the pool, and then you have the pool patio, and it'll be relatively flat in here. So we're maintaining currently the drainage pattern drains to the left side of the house towards the front, and then it also drains across the back to the north, the northeast across the current patio. So what we're doing is we're providing a swale around the patio and to get the water to maintain the flow. So the pool back on this side will be slightly elevated compared to the ground, not by much, by about a foot or so. And then over on this side, what we're doing is we're installing drains, and we're collecting the water and then piping it into a seepage pit. So although it's about 2 feet, I think when you're out there, you're still gonna see it. It's gonna be relatively flat because this is 322 here at the door, so the yard will be pretty flat.
So there'd be a slight reveal on the edge of the pool on the house side.
Yes, I think that it's going to be blended in the back, where it's going to be dropped down in elevation, and the back of the pool is sort of going to be cut into the earth.
Oh, so that kind of goes to my next question. What's the impact to that retaining wall by digging a hole for a pool just a couple feet off it?
There won't actually be any impact at all. The retaining wall is a modular block wall, and typically they're buried about a foot or so. But the pool itself, it's going to be reinforced with steel, and the walls of the pool is actually going to be below the bottom of the wall, and the pool is designed as a retaining wall also. So there won't be any impacts to the retaining wall as a result of building the pool.
Okay. This is a very tight area to do a pool, even of this size. And I don't disagree. This is not a large pool, but you do not have a large area to begin with. And I see we're shoehorning this in. And the other question, and you started to touch on it before, you're going to have to really trim those evergreens on top of that wall to try to get a fence. And then if you only own that retaining wall, how are you securing it? Right to the top of that retaining wall. And now what I'm hearing is if that can't work, then you have to have a 3-foot gap. And if the face of the wall is 2 feet off the back property line, then you have to have a 3-foot gap. Now you've got a 3-foot gap that you're gonna have to maintain. It's gonna be a nightmare. And you might have to go in that direction because of the evergreens and the way that wall is. And then here you might just shrink the pool maybe a foot. I think we're really trying to shoehorn something in here that at first, on paper, I can kind of understand it and I see some of the gaps that you have. I'm not thrilled with the 3.6 feet, to be honest with you, and then the 6 feet to the pool itself. I think you're wise by staying with the 10 feet, but I'm almost seeing this pool shrinking even more because that area is going to be extremely tight. And if that scenario does take place, and I think we really have to have discussion on this tonight, where the fence is going, because if the fence is now 3 feet, now you're 5 feet off the property line to the fence. And then you have a couple feet of coping, and then you have the pool. What I don't want to see is that coping go away and the pool right up against the fence. From a safety standpoint, if somebody had to get out on that side and you reach up and it's fence and you can't get out, I think that's a horrible design.
That would never happen.
I think it's a poor design trying to have something that close to the wall and then try to maintain whatever vegetation is going to be behind it. I think you're going to be constantly picking things out of this pool.
No, I would say to you that the request that we're making under the variance relief would be the maximum the pool could be in this location. In all likelihood, if there is a need to put the fence on the ground rather than at the top of the wall, the pool, as you used the term, would be shrunk, and the fence that would be put in would be code compliant. But there is no thought of taking a fence and installing it right next to the coping of the pool. That would not be done. We would still maintain the patio area, the small patio area around it inside the fence, and that would result in the width of the pool being reduced. So variance relief that's granted under the law, if you grant something that's, let's say, is 16 feet wide on a plan, and you find up building it 15 feet or 14 feet wide, at that point, that's permitted because it's less than the variance relief granted.
Right. No, I would agree with that. Where I'm going is, I'm not thrilled with the 3.6. I'm curious to hear the other board members if they have concerns. And I think if we would be in a position where we'd have to shrink it because the fence couldn't go there, well, that means to me that the pool can be reduced a little bit, which, to be honest, I would like to see you get as close to that 10 feet as possible. And I know you probably won't be able to get that. You're at 6 foot to the pool edge right now, but 3.6 feet off the back. I just feel like you're building this right up against that wall, and you can try to identify it as being a little further off than just a couple of feet. But at the end of the day, that's really what it is. And I think there may be an opportunity. So I'm glad you pointed that out, that if the fence does go on the ground, you're willing to have the pool reduced in size. I'd like to see that perhaps on the table to make it so that, you know what, we can make one decision. Maybe we skinny that pool up a little bit, and with whatever direction you go in, you have the size of the pool that's agreed upon by the board. This is just my personal opinion, because I did walk back there. It is tight, and it's a small pool. I like that style pool. It's more of like a waiting type pool, which, you know, I love. You go out west, everybody has a pool like that. I don't have an issue with that. It's a very unique spot. Certainly, if that retaining wall was not there, I'd really be against the 3.6. But that wall kind of changes the whole dynamic.
It does. It
makes it very private. Yeah, it certainly is. So those are my comments on. That's just my comments on it. That I was kind of struggling from the topography. You're going to have a reveal. To me, that does make sense because the property is not level in the back. So now I think I have a better vision of how that's going to look. What other questions?
I would like to make this comment, just a suggestion. Having been before the board, when I know no board is looking to try to redesign something, but you've got concerns now about what it would look like if we have to do what we are proposing. If we could, Mr. Chairman, perhaps see if there's any other board comments that's different than yours.
Sure.
And perhaps what would be better is for you to visualize that plan before you render the decision.
Yep, no, absolutely. I do want to hear from the other board members to see their opinion as well. Board, I'll open it up. If anyone has any comments about the dimensions of the pool, topography, the retaining wall, the fence, any questions or concerns?
I tend to agree with Chairman Fry. You know, not knowing where the fence is going to be, and when he was talking about numbers with the fence moving at 3 feet, I mean, that changes this whole application. It changes the landscape plan. It changes pretty much everything about this. So I don't know if we'll hear more testimony from Ms. Booth about if that may be possible with cutting those back and getting the fence up there, or if she has more insight in that. So I don't want to jump to conclusions until Mr. Whitaker and Ms. Booth can present. But I tend to agree with Mr. Fry that, you know, this kind of changes the whole application if that fence gets moved down. So for me, I think that's a bit of a challenge in saying, yeah, it's going to be smaller, but I think it changes the whole application because you're going to have to resubmit a landscape plan. It's going to be a totally different pool than what we're seeing now. So
I would concur, I think, with basically with what we have here, that it might be wise to show you that alternate plan and reevaluate this and carry it for the next meeting for that purpose.
Okay, let's see if any other board members have any comments. That way we can kind of give you some positive direction.
So just a question, Mr. Chairman, or to the, what type of fence is going there? I see on the plan it has fence detail, but the fence detail is basically around the self-locking mechanism for the gate to get in and out. What type of fence is that? Is that a chain link or?
I don't think the applicant has decided yet.
The other reason why I ask this, and it comes back to, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it comes back to, if you're going to put a vinyl stockade to match everything else that's in, the property, that's one thing. And I think that's going to exacerbate the problem even further because it's larger. If you're going to put in a black, chain link, it's not as, the size and scale is a little bit smaller, but to the point I think that Mr. Whitaker has made, I think it probably is better if you guys come back, we take a look and see whether or not the fence can sit on top of the wall, or if it does have to come down off, that's going to change it to give us a real understanding of what this is really going to look like. It is unique. Again, it's not overly ostentatious size pool, but I think we really do need to understand that before we can make a decision, or I can make a decision. I would say we.
Okay, thank you. Any other board members have any comments?
I agree with you, Chairman Fry. I'd like personally to see the pool being moved away from that retaining wall a little bit more. And if that means shrinking it in size, is that a hot tub? The circle by the pool?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, there's an option to remove that and just do a pool slightly smaller. It's just so close. When I look at the plan, all I see is pavers and pool. It's not a large yard, so you have to work with what you have, but you're trying to put a lot of stuff in that small area.
This zone is a very unique zone because the zone itself doesn't have requirements as it pertains to impervious coverage for accessory structures, which is what a pool is considered. So it's a very unique zone compared to your other zones in the township.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
So
All right.
Mr. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nope. Any other comments, board?
I agree with Mr. Huber. I'd really like to know what kind of fence and if it can conclusively be placed on top of the retaining wall before deciding, if you have to completely, change the plans and, narrow the pool. It seems as though the fence would be best placed on top of the retaining wall, but I was there and it was very tight. I'm thinking this black chain link might not be so bad because you have the shrubs up top that would kind of be growing behind it, and it would still kind of have that natural look and barrier. So
that's a good point. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to have the board carry this meeting until I think it's June 17th, without further public notice.
So what we should probably do, just in fairness, I'll open up to the public, see if the public has any questions. And then do we want to hear anything from, I'm sorry, I don't see her on the screen anymore.
Jessica Booth, I wouldn't want the board to listen to landscape testimony this evening if there's going to be a redesign, because I think it would just become repetitive. And I think it would be more efficient if we presented it when we've got a plan finalized as far as size of pool, location of fencing, et cetera.
Okay. I would like to open it up to the public just in case, in fairness to the applicant as well. That way they can hear all aspects of this in position. So Ms. Mitchell, do we have anyone from the public I'll open it up if anyone from the public would care to speak on behalf of the Corolla application, which is 425 Redrock Road.
Mr. Farrow, would you like to say something?
Hi, yeah. So we're the neighbors behind.
Mr. Beck, we need to have them on video.
I need to swear you in. Can you please raise your right hand?
Yes, can you see me?
No.
No. Hold on. I don't know how to put the video on.
Take your mouse and hover it over the square that has your name in it. Unless you didn't register for video.
Oh, we didn't.
Oh, I may not have.
All right, here's what we'll do. Can you raise your right hand where you're at?
Yep, I am.
Okay. You swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Again, if you could please state your name for the record, spelling your last name and providing your address.
My name is George Farah. That's F as in Frank, A-R-R-A. The address is 316 Megan Court, M as in Mary, E-G-A-N, and that's in Wyckoff, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Just for the record, before Mr. Farrow starts, and Mr. Becker, I'm not trying to create any kind of an adversarial proceeding, but I'm required to do this. The Department of Community Affairs Zoom requirements, anyone testifying is to be on camera. I'm sure you're aware of that also. So I'm going to just note it for the record so I preserve my client's rights, and we can proceed that way.
Ms. Wicker, I do appreciate that. I'll be honest with you, I think it may be just beneficial to your client just to hear.
I agree. I agree.
So I appreciate you putting it on the record because you are right.
Yes.
You may proceed.
All right. So I don't have any concerns per se. I do have a question. I guess I'm just trying to understand why the wall itself does not act as a fence barrier. I mean, it's a very high wall.
Well, first, it requires something to be a certain height and certain lot, and it has to be locked. So it doesn't meet the requirements for a pool fencing. That's the wall itself doesn't meet certain requirements.
The height, I can answer the question. I think Mr. Marty Gennaro would agree, and so Mr. Vince. There has to be a fence or structure that would prevent somebody from walking onto this property, not just going down, but would have to would be a barrier to them. So coming to the wall and there being nothing there is what creates the code issue, and that's why there has to be a fence.
Right, like Mr. Farah, someone could cut through your yard knowing the pool's back there, come cut through your yard and then jump down the wall into the pool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wouldn't be the smartest thing to do, Mr. Farah, but that's the concern from a safety
No,
aspect.
it would be tough to get through the trees, but it doesn't meet the code.
I guess I appreciate that safety concern. I mean, I guess there's really nothing preventing anyone from running through the arborvitaes and taking a header off the wall right now. So,
right,
Mr. Farah, that's what I was going to ask you. From your backyard, is it flush? Is the top of that wall flush with grade in your backyard? So if someone could make it through that, would they go right off the wall, or is there a reveal where it's elevated up above?
So between the wall that is facing the Corolla's property and those arborvitaes, there is another smaller retaining wall. I want to say maybe 2 to 3 feet in height, depending on what edge of my property you're standing on, because the property slopes. So if you were to run from my property to get to theirs, you would first take a step down a couple of feet into the bed of the arborvitaes, and then further into their property down the entire length of that wall.
So from your backyard, it steps down a couple of feet, and then depending on where you are, and then you have the top of the retaining wall?
Yeah. I mean, you're more than welcome to come visit my property and see
But it's not the 48 inches that are required, or 52 inches for the, that it's
No,
required around the
It's a
pool, right?
two-tiered wall. It's a two-tiered
Yeah.
wall. Mr. Farah has a wall the same fashion so that his house is sitting up higher. And then there's like
That's
2
right.
foot drop on a little wall. Then it goes to the arborvitae's, and then it's got the big drop down to
Right.
That's right.
Corolla's property.
Oh, so the arborvitae sit between the two retaining walls.
That's correct.
Yes.
Ah, interesting. And who do we say owns the arborvitae?
I'm actually
No.
not sure. I mean, we've both been kind of caring for them individually.
Hi, we own them.
Okay.
Okay, all right, I guess that
So,
helps to an
again,
extent.
can I ask one question, Mr. Chairman, before, I don't want to, again, the question I have though is because this property is tiered and sloped, what would the height of the fence have to be? Because if there is a retaining wall, 2 feet, 3 feet, I don't need a 52-inch or a 4-foot fence there. Would have to be 4 feet plus that, wouldn't it? Or, because I just step over the fence into the pool. I mean,
No. There's a separation. The 2 foot, that 2 foot wall that Mr. Farah is talking about,
right?
it's set back. And the way the code, the way the pool barrier code is written,
Right.
it's 3 feet from another structure. So he has to be, that wall, even if we put the wall on top of the big retaining wall, that fence has to be 3 foot from Mr. Farah's 2 foot wall.
Okay, that makes
It's
sense.
like same thing with pool equipment. Like you're not allowed to put pool equipment within 3 feet of the pool fence because someone could go stand on top of the filter and then hop the fence.
That's what I'm trying to get. Okay, got it.
So that actually helps us answer the question. So if that bed where the arborvitae is planted, from the top of the retaining wall that we see to the smaller step wall behind it, if that's less than 3 feet, then you can't put the fence on top of the wall.
Yeah, but
Is that
I
what
think
I'm
it's
hearing?
more than 3 feet. I mean, I didn't measure it, but it looked like more than 3 feet to me. Just those just the width of the arborvitae's, they're huge.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's something we should obviously.
That has to be shown though.
Into everything.
You need to determine that though.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go measure it.
Okay.
And I mean, obviously I'm more than happy to work, with the Corollas on, whatever fencing would be aesthetically pleasing for, both sides. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Farrer.
And that's what we can do.
Yep. Anything else?
Not for me. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
I have no concerns.
Great. Ms. Mitchell, was there anyone else?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. Then we'll close the public. Okay, Mr. Whitaker, I think you had expressed you're looking to maybe reassess, get some more data on this and
Absolutely.
carry it to the next meeting,
June the 17th at 7:30 at 8 o'clock.
June 17th. Yep.
And just if there's anybody else from the public, obviously, this applicant does not need to renotice since we're publicly announcing it's going to be carried.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay. Next application is the 11 application. 321 Martin Road, block 289, lot 8.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Papaleo, testifying for the Levin residents as a licensed architect.
Mr. Papaleo, okay.
I'm going to go ahead and swear you in. If you could raise your right hand, please. You swear affirm the testimony you give tonight be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could state your name again for the record, just spelling your last name and giving us your business address.
Sure. It's Chris Papaleo, Papaleo. Business address is 226 Mawa Road, Mawa, New Jersey.
And if you could give us some of your professional credentials, quick education, some of your experience, and whether you've
Sure.
testified before this board or other similar boards.
Yes, my undergrad as an architect was in Northeastern University. I did a master's in NJIT. I've tested, not in Wyckoff, but in multiple towns around New Jersey, probably about, I would say, 20 or so towns as a licensed architect.
And you're licensed in New Jersey?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Papaleo's credentials are sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Go, Mr. Papaleo.
Yes, so as you guys are aware that Sarah Levin is looking to, I need to share my screen. If you can just give me access, that'd be great. They are looking to provide a new entrance to the home, something that's a little bit more substantial looking than what's there now. We're not looking to encroach any further on the setback.
Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We're not, as I was saying, we're not looking to encroach any further on the setback. Right now, the setback is, as you can see in the site plan, existing is 36.7 feet to the front of the garage. Our porch roof is set back from that at 37.38 feet. The face of which is in line. I'm going to go to the elevation, the side elevation. And I know you guys had some question about this earlier, but this is the existing roof line with the eave coming down on the existing roof. This behind here is the new roof. And what we are doing is aligning it with the existing. So we're essentially just altering the existing roof to create a new gable entrance roof on the front elevation. Your other question was how tall this new structure is going to be, this new gable end roof, and it is going to be 15'6" tall from the grade. That's basically it. It's an open air, structure with timbers that are see through. So it's not closed in the front. So it's kind of open throughout the entire structure. And that's pretty much it. That's the essence of what we are doing on the project.
So thank you for clarifying. So 15'6" to the peak.
Yes.
And my question was kind of the depth, but at the end of the day, it looks like it's scaled at 1/4 inch scale. It's about 4.5 feet. Does that sound right? Or am I way off?
I'm sorry, what
the depth of the covered portion of the porch.
So in plan.
Yep, go to plan view. Yep, right there.
So the new gable aligns with the existing eave of the roof. So it doesn't really per se extend. It's the same extent as to what it was before, what it is now.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And it's actually set back a little further than the furthest that's encroaching, which is the garage.
Yes, that's correct. This line represents the garage eave, and this is the garage face right here.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to get a dimension where it says existing concrete platform to remain typical. From that wall where your door is to the edge of the covered portion is about 4.5 feet. So what I'm getting at is just to get it on record, it's not like a 10-foot deep porch.
No. Yeah, it's
right?
about 4.5 feet. That's correct.
About 4.5 feet. Okay. All right. So really it's 15'6" high. This is very small in the grand scheme of things. Was this kind of an afterthought? Because I see they're doing a lot of work on the house itself.
No, actually, we originally had this on the plan, but it was flagged as a variance, because we are altering the roof, and I guess it's an existing non-conforming condition, and we're altering what's there, so it was flagged as a variance. So that's why we're coming back at it.
Right. Okay. All right, and the existing principle, so you have a couple of pre-existing non-conformances, but what you're looking to build is not encroaching any further. we've got the height, we've got the depth now. You're removing a shed in the back?
That's correct. That shed, I think that is actually getting removed next week. This
Okay.
shed here.
Okay, perfect. So that is going to be removed. So that eliminates the accessory structure. So your total combined will be 16.4. So your total principal 16.4, which does exceed the 15% max, pre-existing or existing. And then your total will be the same 16.4, which is which is below the 20%, excuse me. Okay. Board, any questions for the architect?
Just want to say, I love his bubbles around where the activity is on his application. I just want to share that with,
Thank you. I worked hard on those.
very great bubbles.
Revisions, he actually clouded them.
That's it.
Nice
Cloud.
job.
I did go to school.
Or bubbles, whatever you want to call
Bubbles, clouds.
them. All right, any other questions?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. I will open it up to the public. Ms. Mitchell, do we have anyone else left on the line?
We have no one, sir.
Okay, so seeing we have no one from the public, we will close public comments. Okay, board, there's a couple of pre-existing. I had identified the boxes to be checked on the Schedule J. That'll just have to get cleaned up a little bit. What they're proposing is 16.4 total, eliminating the accessory structure as noted on the plan. And the height is 15'6" to the peak of that gable. For the front porch, it's about 4.5 feet deep and is not further encroaching at 37.38 feet. All right, pretty simple. All right. Unless someone has any other comments, then I'll open up to the board if anyone wants to make a motion on the application.
I'll make a motion to accept 321 Martin Road, block 289, lot 8, as proposed.
Okay, motion by Mr. Borst. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Tanis. Ms. Mitchell?
Ms. Rizvani,
Yes.
Mr. Tanis,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Ms. Riado,
Yes.
Mr. Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry.
Yes. All right. That was a nice, simple one.
Thank you.
Okay. Congratulations. Good luck with the rest of construction. Looks good. Nice and simple. You like that?
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, you too. Thank you. Okay. Couple interesting applications. I thought we had some very good comments and points on the Redrock's application. Interested to see what they come back with. Unfortunately, we couldn't clear everyone out tonight, but I think it's probably best, even though we know we're probably going to have a heavy agenda next month, but it is what it is. We'll push our way through it. But I thought the comments were very good, so thank you. Anybody have anything that they want to discuss before we close?
When we coming back in person?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. So I did talk to Ms. Mitchell a little bit. If you want to give us an update, Maureen?
Well, I was telling Carl that the governor just recently lightened up on a lot of the restrictions in the state. One with regard to the number of people that you can have at indoor gatherings. However, he did not loosen up on the 6-foot social distancing. So we already have the courtroom set up social distance 6 feet apart to accommodate as many people as we can. So even though the governor is saying you can have more people indoors, you still have to be social distance by 6 feet. So we're not adding any more chairs into the courtroom. If we had one applicant, or maybe two at a time, we could all be back in the courtroom. But if we're going to have 3, 4, 5, 6 applications, the logistics would have to be, where are these people going to wait? Are they going to sit out in their cars? Or are they going to watch YouTube on their phones? We're going to have a gatekeeper to escort one applicant and all of their professionals out of the building, bring the next batch in. So, like I say every month, it's not for me to make that decision. I think it entails a lot more work. And do you want people sitting out in their cars outside waiting to be called in until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night? Somebody's going to have that discussion. So basically, even though the governor loosened up the restrictions, it hasn't changed the number of people we can fit into the courtroom because we have to stay 6 feet apart.
What is the number you can have in there with the way they have it set up right now?
I can't tell you off the top of my head. I can go in there tomorrow and let you know. It's not a lot.
I would think you could put more than two applicants sitting in there. I mean,
yes, that's what I said. You could probably have 2 applicants. Well,
I would think you could do more than that besides that.
Actually, no. We got about 2 rows of 4 chairs spaced 6 feet apart, because you have to be 6 feet apart on each side and 6 feet apart front to back. And don't forget, there are 9 board members. We're only allowed to have 5 at the dais. So besides myself and Mark having our own desks, we have to set up 4 additional tables in front of the dais for the additional board members. So that eats into the room. And then we have to leave 6 feet from where the board members in front of the dais are sitting to where the microphone is for the professionals and the applicant to come forward to speak. And then 6 feet back from that, we have a row of chairs for people. And 6 feet behind them, we have another row of chairs for people. So it's not a lot of people. Like tonight,
obviously it's not like cost.
Bruce had himself, Kirsten, for the first application, Kanzani. The applicant probably would come to the meeting if it was in person. They were on, even though they didn't testify. So you might be able to have 2 applicants with professionals in the room at the same time. But if we have 6 or 7 applications on the agenda for next month, and listen, I'm not voting yay or nay for either way. I'm not the one making that decision. You guys want to go back in person? Somebody has to have that discussion and figure out how we do it. How do we do it with all of these people waiting to get into the courtroom? Especially if we have a very packed agenda next month.
Again, it's a call of the board members, but just throw different suggestions. If you guys want to do that, you can actually schedule these during the evening as well. So people aren't waiting in their cars. You can give them an hour or something like that. So you go over an hour and 5 minutes. You can do it that way. You also can have, some waiting areas throughout the building as well. If you want to do it. I'm not saying I think that's a good idea.
How would that happen, Dave? How would that happen though? We can't just have people hanging out in the building, like wherever, because right now, even with the planning board meeting, we did a couple of months in person, but we have to have a gatekeeper. The building is locked. There's a gatekeeper. Christine has been helping me. She stands at the front door. She's letting the board members in, sending them upstairs to the courtroom. And then once, she and I communicate that everybody that I'm waiting for is in the building, she can leave. So you know,
I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just, and again, it's not my call. I'm just saying
Right.
different
we
ways
need
you can
to
do
throw
it.
things out
Want to
there.
go that way, there are some alternatives to try to solve some of those issues, like scheduling them out is one of them. Not saying that's what this board should do. I'm just saying there are some ways you can do it without having a lot of people waiting. You can have another room where people could wait for the next application. There's no reason you can't do that. They're doing those in public assembly areas now. I mean, you go to a church building and that's how they do it. They put them in extra rooms and all like that. So you could do it. I'm just suggesting if that's what this board wants to do, those are some of the ways you can do it. The one thing that does concern me is if we're going to make the call, we have to do it in enough time so that notices like the one that's being carried or any that carried because their notices were only about a virtual meeting, they're going to have to renotice now. So whatever we decide or you guys decide to do it, you're going to have to give enough time for them to actually give notice. And some of them, even though they thought they weren't going to have to renotice, you're going to have to renotice because if you go in person, their Zoom or virtual one does not suffice. So that's my concern on that side of it.
Right. And for June, that will be a problem because like you just said, 101 Kelowna and now 425 Redrock. And to be honest with you, the one that was supposed to be on tonight was also a Kanzani application. He noticed, but he didn't notice on time. And unfortunately, but he missed the newspaper by 1 day, didn't contact the newspaper in time, so had to be pushed to June and immediately went and got his notices back out. And guess what? He noticed for a virtual meeting for June. So we now have 3 people.
No, I understand that, but I mean, if this board decides to do it, they're going to have to renotice. That's just the nature of the game. But
Yeah. Sounds like we're going to stay virtual for a little bit.
I mean,
I'm not pushing either way. I was just throwing out things that you need to do. If
Yeah.
you're trying to do it.
My personal opinion is this has been working. Am I thrilled with it? No. But I think certainly if we're going to potentially have 6 to 8 applications, next month is definitely not the month to start off trying to go back live.
Yeah.
So what I think we should probably do is, and I'll talk to Bob as well, just to get his feedback on it. I'm sure he is probably anxious to get people in as well, but he's also going to be very cautious with how he does it because I know how he operates, and rightfully so. So we also have to put some common sense into it too. And this for June, it doesn't make sense based on what I'm hearing so far. So I think we kind of evaluate it as we go along. If we have a lighter month and maybe we clear the docket so that we don't have any carryovers that would possibly have to renotice, maybe it's a good opportunity. But me personally, I don't necessarily want to rush it. And then all of a sudden it's chaos with people locked out of the building. Somebody has to run down and let them. I'd rather not deal with that. I can appreciate the fact that Mr. Becker's dying to take the board out after the meeting. I think it's a great idea, and I can't wait myself.
Hey,
But
you know, that's why
we can still meet you, Carl.
Just on another note with that, and I think it has worked really well. These meetings, I'm not against staying this way. I just was trying to throw out if we're going to do it. There's some, and if the board really wants to, there's some things. But one of the issues that came up tonight that Mr. Whitaker brought up, we haven't had any real contentious applications. The obviously electrical car one would have been, and people. He's right. If you read the letter of the law, they really have to be able to be seen. I don't think necessarily that he's right that push comes to shove, that's going to get enforced, because how are you going to keep someone out? They call in, they can't do it. So we've gotten away with some stuff on that. And I thought it was good for him to hear that person because it was actually in favor of his application. But when you start, this is going to become more problematic. You get some applications that are a little more contentious, not going in person. And we've been very fortunate that's worked for us. And done well.
How quick can we change? If someone, the issue was he didn't register initially to have video. Can you re-register during the call to be a permitted video?
He probably could have gone back to his Zoom. No, you know what? Yeah, I guess he could have gone back to the link. I honestly, I don't know. I don't think I've ever myself registered for a Zoom meeting. I've always been the host.
Can you see by the next meeting, just so we maybe have a little outline in case we come up with that, you can say, here are the steps. I'll post it on the screen, do this thing, and let's get them on video. So to that point, we don't have any issues not having them on video in case there's a legal
Good idea.
condition.
I think that push comes to shove, whether you can see them or not, a court's not going to say that that testimony is not valid because of all.
Yeah, I would agree with you, especially
But,
now.
but,
I mean,
but Bruce is right. If you read the letter of the law on it, he's right, but I don't think it's going to get enforced. But those are the issues that you ever get more of a contentious application we're going to run into. That's like, and we've done well. This board's done a wonderful job. And I go to other boards that are doing this, and you guys certainly do better than most. I will say that. So I'm not
wait,
pushing.
who does better than, I want to know who does better than us.
I haven't seen one that does better.
I'm only kidding. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Yeah, you've done a great job.
Maybe I can also add some language to what is posted on the website, you know, the day of the meeting, how to access the meeting. Maybe I can add something that says, if you wish to comment or you
ask
know, whatever,
questions, you need to register.
you must register to
Yeah,
be
I would do
on
that.
both video as well as audio.
Yeah, so be clear, if you wish to make any comments during the Zoom, you have to register with video.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Okay. And then we'll have a plan B in case they didn't register properly and they do want to speak. We can give them simple instructions and have them do it right then and there.
Right.
And then I think we're probably covered. Listen, we've done everything we possibly can to accommodate everyone, right?
Yes, I think we have.
Okay. All right, great. Anything else, board?
And if anybody has any ideas or feelings about getting back, like I said, I'm not trying to push this one way or the other. I just think, you know, I stated my case, but feel free to reach out to me or ideas or comments.
Yep, I think we're all on the same page. We're all anxious to get back. If we can do it and it makes sense, then I think we'll all be in agreement that we can do it. So we'll assess each month. And in the meantime, I'll talk to Bob. Do you, and this, I don't know, I'll talk to Bob. Okay.
Okay.
All right, everyone.
Motion?
Motion to close?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor? All right.
Aye.
Very good. All right, stay healthy, everyone.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
See you next
Take
month.
care.
Hopefully
Have a great weekend,
sooner. Oh, wait.
folks. Take care.
Good
Bye.
You got something?
Right.
Huh?
Did somebody